Hi, and welcome to the When Harry Met Onnie podcast, episode number 11. My name is Emily. I live in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and this is a podcast about knitting and crocheting. So if you've stumbled across my podcast, my little corner of the internet, thank you for joining me. To anyone who has subscribed or watched a podcast before, thanks for joining me again. And to those of you who have found this episode for the first time, found my podcast for the first time, welcome. Like I said, I live in central Pennsylvania. My overall format is the same as a lot of other knitting and crocheting podcasts. So I start out with any announcements I have. I do a segment called From the Vault where I show a project from years past. I move on to finished objects if I have any. Works in progress. I have a segment called Prime Time where I show things that I've either bought or received in the mail since the last podcast. And then I have an office gossip section where I talk about what's been going on at home and improving my living and working space. And then lastly, I have just a random corner where I talk about whatever's on my mind. So I actually have content for each and every segment. So let's just jump right into it and start with announcements. So my first announcement is that I have displayed some of my yarn on this wine rack, which was not in use because we have this like wooden server thing that now we can put wine in. So I have repurposed this for a decoration for my podcast. Here's my sheep puff from Love You Farm in Montpelier, Virginia. And so I'm out in the living room again. My office is still somewhat of a disaster, so bear with me, but I hope you like this setup. And if you don't, I'll probably make it back to my office by next episode or the episode after. We are still doing the RBG cowl, which is a knit along inspired by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So you have the choice to knit either the Descent by Andrea Rangel or the Knitorious RBG by Park Williams. That cowl ends March 15th. If you are interested in participating or if you are participating and forget the rules, please check out the notes in episode number 8 of this podcast or take a look at the Legally Stitching Facebook group. Or you can have a look on my Ravelry group for the cowl called RBGKAL, 2 separate words. Just an announcement with respect to the cowl, I have secured prizes. So I'm going to be awarding 3 different prizes for 3 different participants. And if you win, if your entry is chosen, you will win this mug. So this is my RBG mug. It is based off of the Justice tarot card, and it features a picture of her. No, the manatee will not be included. So you will win that. And then the second piece of the prize package will be a bag from Awesome Bags by Granny. I am working with her to put together a bag for the winners. So everyone will get the same bag. It'll be a Notions pouch. So I hope you're excited if you're participating. And so let me know what you think about that. And I'm excited to award some prizes. We have just a few entries so far on Instagram and on the Ravelry group. So if you're finishing up your sweater or if you're interested in jumping in and putting a sweater together in the next 2 weeks, go for it. So that's all I have for announcements, and I'll move on to From the Vault. If you've watched my previous episodes that I film in my office, you may have seen this Afghan peeking out from behind me on the futon that's behind me. So this is the, what is it called? This is the Peaceful Ripple by Anne Halliday. It's in hot pink. And I started this in July 2011, so I was in college, and I finished it in January of 2014 when I was in law school. It is from this book, The Beginner's Guide to Ripple Afghans. So this is one of the patterns in that book. Here's the example. And yeah, so this is crocheted out of Loops and Threads Impeccable Solids in Arbor Rose. I used 9 skeins. The final measurements are 48 inches by 76 inches, so 4 feet by like 6.5-ish. So it's a nice big Afghan, Lapghan. The cats love it, so you know, if the cats love it, then who wouldn't love it? The yarn is 100% acrylic, which I love because I pop this in the washer probably like once a month. And yeah, it has this ripple pattern that just repeats over and over again, but it does leave holes in the blanket. So I know that was something that I'm not thrilled about with knitting Afghans, that it leaves these holes in it so that you accidentally like stick your feet in or stick your toes in. But I don't know, it makes for a nice design. Actually, some of my ends I see, like this end is coming out. So I'll have to weave that back in so it doesn't get destroyed in its next trip in the washer. But yep, that is my From the Vault project today. The hot pink ripple Afghan, the Peaceful Ripple by Anne Halliday. Next up are finished objects. So I will discuss the alpaca in the room, which is my Umpqua sweater by Caitlin Hunter. I have finally finished it. This is my first sweater. I guess from last episode, the only things I had to do were finish the neck, and then do the ribbing, so the neckline, and then I had to address the underarms, which was not very fun, I have to be honest. So let me talk a little bit about that. I'm just gonna grab my notes here so I stop looking completely down. So the pattern for the underarms calls for you to do a 3-needle bind off. I found that just did not adequately explain everything that you would need to do to complete the underarms, because as you know, if you've ever knit a bottom-up sweater, I don't know if this happens in top-down sweaters, someone will have to let me know, but it leaves these like holes on either side of your bind off. So there are ways to address this even before attempting the bind off. But for the one underarm, I did the 3-needle bind off with the live stitches I had, and then I didn't really know how to close those holes up. So I would recommend this YouTube video that I found that is done by the Grocery Girls, and Tracy walks you through how to do the Kitchener stitch. So let me back up. She walks you through picking up extra stitches to avoid those holes, then doing Kitchener stitch for the bind off, and I think she shows duplicate stitch for the little holes that are left. I would highly recommend checking out that video. I did actually Kitchener stitch one of the smaller holes after I'd done the 3-needle bind off. So the underarms are not perfect. Granted, nobody's going to be looking at them, but I would recommend looking at that video before doing any underarm grafting, as it was kind of frustrating that the pattern didn't have any further instruction. However, the finished product is amazing. I love it. This is a wonderful unisex pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I think it's an unsung Caitlin Hunter pattern. I haven't seen a lot of people make it. It's not like the Tecumseh or the Tenya that it seems everyone and their mother has made one of those. But this is just a really nice rustic look, although depending on the colors you pick, it doesn't always look like you're gonna go out camping for 4 weeks. But I really love it and how it turned out. But the yarn that I used is from Humble Hen Farm Nursery in Abbottstown, Pennsylvania. All of the yarn was gifted to me by my husband, and it features 3 different colors. It's an alpaca merino blend, worsted weight. I've talked about the yarn in the past. What else? Since last episode, of course, woven on my ends and I blocked it. So I was really worried that this was going to be an extremely scratchy finished product, itchy, that I wouldn't be able to handle it. So I washed it with the Twig and Horn wool soap. And I pinned it out, just did some regular blocking method to get it in good shape. And it is much softer than when I put it in for a bath. So I actually am not wearing anything underneath this other than a camisole. So it is up against my skin. It doesn't feel like soft or silky smooth. It's very warm, but I don't feel uncomfortable in it. So I'm very happy with how it turned out. I'm very happy with the feel. I think that it'll only get softer as I wash it more and more, either in the Twig and Horn or in Eucalypt. But yeah, it's done. So I'm so excited. I'm thrilled. I'll be wearing this for my casual Friday at work. So I thought I'd just show you the yoke here and how that turned out. You have this single row of your contrasting color for the neckline, for the cuffs, and then for the hem at the bottom. And this goes a little bit past my bum, so it's a nice cozy sweater. I can't remember what size I knit. I think I knit like the 40. I don't remember. I'll have to look and I'll put it in the description, but it came out really nice. And yeah, so this is the Umpqua by Caitlin Hunter. My next finished object is a crochet hat for a baby. It is very ridiculous, but I made this little eagle hat. So this hat is for one of Logan's friends he and his wife are pregnant. They're due in August. And his online screen name has the word eagle in it. So when he told everyone that they were expecting a baby, he wrote baby eagle coming August 2019. So I really took that one to the bank and decided to make this little crochet eagle hat. The pattern is Eagle Hat by Corey Janssen, and she also has, I don't know if it's like her design name, but it's called Crafted Visions. This is a paid for pattern on Ravelry. It was $5. And yeah, it's pretty silly. It has these eyebrows. If you look at the pattern on Ravelry, the eagle looks a lot more demonic than mine looks. But I changed the colors a little bit. It's Red Heart Super Saver yarn, 100% acrylic. And I used like this forest green and a little bit lighter green. My intent was not for this to turn into like a Philadelphia Eagles mascot hat, but it kind of looks like that. I think they live in like Missouri, so that's not what I was really going for. Just eagle, and you know, they don't know the gender of the baby yet, so I wanted it to be unisex. And it has little eyebrows. This took me a few days to make. You know, the hat took a couple hours. The time-consuming part were the facial features and then attaching them and sewing them on. I made a few modifications. I shortened the beak considerably. There were actually, I think there was another 2 or 3 rows that I ended up not putting on there because this is the 3 to 6 month size, and it just would have looked too long and like I don't know, it's like cute, but I want it to, I didn't want it to be overbearing with the facial features. But what else? I did not stuff it either, so these are more pliable. They don't have stuffing in them. I just kind of wound the yarn from the ends and stuffed them in there. But yeah, so that is my finished eagle hat. Next up are works in progress. So keeping with the eagle baby theme, I decided to make, in addition to the hat, a small stroller blanket to go along with the hat. So I'm using the same colors that are featured in the hat, Red Heart Super Saver yarn, and I found a pattern on Ravelry called the Cherry Blossom Stroller Blanket. It is by Kimberly Wassenberg Hull. It was $3.25. This calls for Red Heart Super Saver 100% acrylic, which I'm using, and the finished dimensions will be 23 inches by 23 inches. This is what I have so far. I am on row 7. It has these fun clusters as part of the design, and then it will have a border with this green color. I should also mention that we are expecting Logan's friend to visit on Thursday. So I would like to have this completed by Thursday to give to him with the hat. I think I can do it, but I'm gonna have to be exclusively working on this project. Check it out if you're interested in a small crochet Afghan. It's really adaptable for any gender, or you can make it unisex. I mean, it said it would be, the pattern itself said it would be perfect for a baby girl, but I don't know. I think it would be perfect for either gender child, or, you know, like you can make it neutral colors or gender neutral colors if you want, which is what I'm trying to do with this project. So that is the Cherry Blossom Stroller Blanket. After finishing the Umpqua, I decided to cast on another sweater, and you might guess that this is the Knitorious RBG by Park Williams. Yes, I have finally started my own submission, my own project for my own cowl, but it is living in my project bag from NSP Designs. This is her large project bag, and I have, here's the pattern in my little protector. So since finishing the Umpqua, I have cast on, and I am here. So I have about, what's that? It's probably like over 3 inches of ribbing, but not, also it's very, I mean, it's just black, so it's going to be hard to see any kind of texture on here, but I will do my best. I'm not sure if that's focusing. Let's just say it is. But the pattern calls for you to knit 7 inches in stockinette. And I think I'm going to keep going because I do not want it to be cropped. The picture of Park wearing the sweater shows it cropped, and I would like it to be a little bit longer. There's my stitch marker from Louise of Adventures with Yarn. I can't remember where she said this came from, but it was like almost like a, it wasn't the Progress Keeper that she sent me. It was just like tied on with a little ribbon. So yeah, I'll post where this is from, but I've been using it as a stitch marker. And I will put my Progress Keeper on here so you can see when I podcast next how far I've gotten. What else do I want to say about this? The yarn. I am using Knit Picks Wool of the Andes. So I'm using coal, and white will be for the yoke. I bought 10 skeins of this. I'm probably going to need 12. It is 110 yards, and the pattern calls for 1120 for the size that I'm making. I'm making the medium, but I only got 1110 because I got 10 skeins at 110 yards. And I don't want to make a cropped version. Although I do have a short torso, so I'm gonna have to see if I might be able to get away with it. But I think I'm just gonna go on to Knit Picks and buy another 2 or 3 of these. They're like $2.80 for a skein. So not exactly like breaking the bank if I need to buy more. And it's 100% Peruvian Highland wool, which I have to admit, after knitting this sweater, this feels like a dream. This is 100% wool. I was a little worried about it when I first got it, but Oh man, this is so soft compared to how this was when I was working on it actively. So yeah, I hope to have that done. I'm not going to have it done before the end of the cowl, which ends March 15th, but I think from now on I'll probably always have a sweater on the go. I want to be knitting a sweater at all times. It's fun. I like it. I've gone over to the dark side for sweaters. Next up is prime time. I'm gonna lump in my last work in progress in this section because I have since cast on the project and put it in the bag that I have gotten. So I got new yarn and a new bag, and it's all wrapped up in one of my works in progress. So I am making the vignette cowl by Suvi Samola. There's a picture of it. And I am making this with my mom. My mom does not know how to cable, so we're doing this cowl so that she can learn a new technique. I'll help her out as best I can. But we picked this pattern out and we went and got yarn together. So I got Fiberco. This is the Fiberco Acadia. It's a DK weight yarn. The color is sand. You get 145 yards per skein. The pattern calls for 290 yards, so I'm really playing it. I'm playing with fire by only buying 2, so I got exactly as much as the pattern calls for. Very soft. It's 60% merino, 20% baby alpaca, and 20% silk noil. My mom is using the Alpaca Yarn Company in their classic alpaca tweed, and she chose this really pretty ruby tweed color. That's 85% baby alpaca and 15% Donegal. So I will show you my progress on it. Just have a little bit. And I like this pattern so far because instead of like a regular knit purl rib, you're doing knit and back loop purl. And I hadn't done that before. I had a moment of panic where I was like, wait, knit and back loop, isn't that what I'm doing all the time? But no, it's just picking up the stitch from the back of the needle as opposed to going front to back and then knitting. But it creates a little more pronounced rib, and it's really nice. It's a very delicate cowl so far. I have about 3 rows left of this ribbing, and then there's a few purl rows, and then you get into the cables. So we have a little ways to go before we start cabling, but really looking forward to it. The yarn and the project are living in this bag that I won from a giveaway. I've never won a prize before in a giveaway, so I did. So this is from Sophia of the Drunk Knitter podcast. I won her giveaway. The bag is from Bag Lady Kathleen. It has these really fun pom-poms on the end. Really lovely lining inside. Very thick and sturdy bag. It has the shape at the bottom so that it sits upright and cinches closed really nicely. So I was really happy to win this, and it arrived on Wednesday. So since then I've had the cowl tucked in here. Yeah, so thank you, Sophia. I'm so happy I won, and there it is. Next up is my office gossip segment. So I had just a few things to share with you that I thought you might be interested in. My husband and I are decorating our downstairs really big room that is like kind of an awkward shape because it's just a rectangle. It's like a really long room, and we've kind of like divided it into an area to watch TV, and then the other side is like it has our record player, and it has the cat tree, and the fireplace is over there. So when we were in Colorado, we went to a poster store in Boulder on Pearl Street, and we got a bunch of posters to hang, and I thought you might be interested in seeing them. The first one we have is it's kind of like futuristic advertisement. It says Kepler 1860 186F, sorry, where the grass is always redder on the other side. So we thought that was kind of cool. And then to complement that, we have a poster from one of my favorite shows, The X-Files. So we have I Want to Believe. I think those will be hung as a pair. My husband loves Tom Cruise movies, so we have Top Gun. And then there's this movie. I don't know what it was, but Logan knew what it was, so we bought this one. That'll be on the movie side. We have the original Blade Runner. We both love Kill Bill, so we have Kill Bill. And then the last one is one of my favorite bands and one of my favorite albums, a poster for their May 23rd concert. I don't even know what year that would have been, in London. Modest Mouse. We were dead before the ship even sank. So this will go on the side of the room with the record player, and that side, on that side we have a couple other posters that are already framed and ready to hang. So there you go. Maybe I'll try to post some pictures on Instagram when everything is hung and we have that room ready to go for entertaining and hanging out. Okay, so for Emily's Random Corner, I have a recipe recommendation for you. I wanted to talk about a lasagna recipe that I made a couple weeks ago that was delicious. So this is a recipe that's called Protein Noodle Lasagna by Maria Emmerich. It is ketogenic, it is gluten-free, it is not dairy-free. But if you're interested in either of those categories of eating, I highly recommend this lasagna. And actually, if you want to try a different kind of lasagna, I would recommend this as well. The main difference between this lasagna and your traditional lasagna made with pasta is that instead of making the lasagna with lasagna noodles, you use thinly sliced deli chicken breast. And you really cannot even tell the difference that it is chicken instead of noodle when it's all cooked up and eaten. So I really enjoyed making that. It's all gone. I have the ingredients to make 2 more batches. It calls for low sugar marinara sauce. I would recommend buying Rao's, R-A-O, marinara sauce if you are interested in that recipe and are also looking for a low sugar marinara sauce. So there you go, an unsolicited lasagna recommendation. The last thing I wanted to talk about was 2 projects on the horizon for me. So I am planning to knit The Weekender by Andrea Mowry, and one of the women in my craft circle at work suggested that we all do The Weekender, that we all knit The Weekender together as a knit along. I only think that her and I are participating right now. I think a couple others might join in. It's a very casual knit along, but I wound up half of the yarn that I need for The Weekender. This is Spirit Trail Fiberworks Salty 100% Targhee wool, and this is their antique rose color. So I had 2 gigantic skeins of this, and I rolled up. There is a cat. There was like a cat claw in there. All right, that's good. So I wound up half of the skein of yarn and then snipped it and then around the rest. So I divided the large skein in half, and I will knit from this skein and then alternate with half of the other skein, and then this skein, and then so I'll be alternating from 4 different skeins that were really 2 skeins. And then lastly, I agreed to do a test knit of a pattern by Carrie Helene Rain. I think I got that right. I found her post on Instagram. She is looking for testers for her waffle tee. I think it appeared in Pom Pom magazine, but I applied to test knit it, and she accepted my application. So I will be test knitting that. The yarn calls for, or the pattern calls for John Arbor Textiles in their knit by numbers 4-ply base. It's a fingering weight yarn. So I went on the website. I didn't really have a stash of fingering weight yarn that I could use to make this tee in a solid color. So I went on the John Arbor website and ordered the called for yarn. I ordered it in this beautiful jewel tone sapphire blue. So I'm looking forward to that arriving, and I'll be working on that. So hopefully next episode I will have started that and have some progress to share on my test knit. Carrie Helene wants her testers to have the projects finished by the end of March, although the yarn hasn't, I don't know when my yarn is going to get here, so I might have to request an extension. But those are things that are on the horizon for me. Otherwise, that is all I have for this week. If you want to connect with me on social media, my Instagram is at When Harry Met Onnie, and my Ravelry username is mmeister. So look for me on there, and I look forward to chatting with you next time. Bye. And here are the namesakes of the podcast, napping together and being real cute. All right, bye guys.